Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. So I recently had a run-in with UPS. UPS smashed a nearly new MacBook that I sent with them. I asked them nicely to pay me back for it, and instead, they started blaming me. Blaming my packaging, saying it was impossible they damaged it, and so on. And get a statement from the Apple shop that I took it to them, saying it was damaged by being dropped or thrown. I could also prove it worked when I sent it. They weren't interested and messed with me for weeks, sending me from pillar to post, even threatening to make me pay interest on customs charges, which I wasn't liable for as the laptop was smashed on arrival and thus worthless at import. I took it to small claims. They hired a lawyer who sent me letters saying they contested it and would go for full fees etc. if I lost. I went for it anyway. I did law stuff university, so I knew the basics and I thought my case was pretty clear-cut. I won. I won my costs back plus extra, plus interest. They ignored the court order and did not pay. Now this laptop was originally being sent to my beloved mother-in-law. She asked me to help her with the problem as UPS were also seriously harassing her for the customs fees. However, very unexpectedly, before I could resolve it, she passed away. It was the last thing she ever asked me to do for her. I loved that woman more than pretty much any human on this planet. She was a mother to me, my best friend, and my mentor. Taking down UPS was now my personal vendetta. I researched my options. I could have taken the usual more conservative legal routes to reclaim my money. But no, screw them. I don't care about the money anymore. I want revenge. I want drama, and I want karmic justice. I went to the high court and I got a writ of control. I of course added on more fees and more interest. I then hired the most aggressive bailiff firm in London. I trusted that the crappy processes and attitude of UPS meant they would ignore the letters and actually get a visit. And they did. The bailiffs rock up at UPS headquarters and explain the situation. UPS refuses to pay, so the bailiffs start listing goods. Security tries to make them leave, the officer manager tries to bully them out. And obviously, no craps are given by the bailiffs, and they crack on with their jobs. I wasn't allowed the body cam footage, but they did send me a detailed report. The final conclusion is copied from it below. Calls were then made to the accounts manager who arrived in a hurry. As no payment was forthcoming from them, the agent again explained the removal process and costs involved and called the office for approval to begin removals. The agent began to seize assets and the finance director then arrived on the scene. He was not at all happy about the attendance, but ultimately agreed to pay a voluntary payment in full from his personal account in order to stop the removal. I know it's a drop in the ocean to UPS, but I got more than double what I originally asked for to replace the laptop. They would have had to pay even more on top of fees to the bailiffs. I reckon it cost them at least 3 times more than the original claim in the end. But mostly I just enjoy the mental image of the flustered finance director and his impotent rage, having to pay his own money to stop the heavies, taking desktop computers and fancy pot plants and things out of their swanky head office lobby. Next story. Armed guard mistaken for store employee, lady gets arrested. Now to the story. So I work as an armed guard for armed truck service. For those of you who don't know, we are responsible for picking up money and checks from other businesses, i.e. banks, stores, restaurants, and so on. As part of my job is handling large amounts of cash, I carry a sidearm or handgun for those not into guns in order to protect myself and the money. Where I live, you have to have what's called a concealed carry permit to have such a firearm outside of work hours, which I have. So I'm on my way home and have to stop at the store to pick up dinner for myself. The store I go to has employees that wear a blue polo and tan pants. My uniform is black pants and red polo with a company name on it. And as I had just got off work, I still have my name badge on and sidearm in its holster on my hip. Cue crazy lady. I am browsing the freezer aisle and she stops me and starts to ask where product Z is. She stops dead in her tracks as she sees my gun in its holster, stops talking and fast walks out of the aisle. I just assume she realized I don't work there and left to find someone who does. I go about my business and proceed up to the cashier line. As I'm waiting to get up to the checkout, there comes a swarm of about 8 police officers. They come straight to me with a crazy lady behind shouting, "That's him! That's the guy with the gun!" They point their guns at me and order my hands up. I drop what I have and comply. I state that I work for Company Z and that I have a permit for my weapon. They lower and holster their guns after the commotion and apologize for the confusion. But they said they got a call about a guy walking around the store waving a gun around. I say I'm sorry, but since I have been here my gun has been holstered, and it never left the holster. They turn to the lady and ask if it's true that I never took my gun out of the holster, and she yells that I am lying and that I can't have a gun in the store anyway. They of course go and check the security footage and see that I did nothing wrong and let me go on about my business and apologize again for the misunderstanding. They then turn around and handcuff the lady who called and told her she is being arrested for misusing the 911 system and inciting panic. For clarity, I'm white male but look Hispanic due to the dark skin tone I have year-round. Next story. Threaten my pregnant wife over parking. Enjoy your misdemeanor HOA bully. This was last year. I just sold my home in my HOA. About 5 years ago, I bought a 1,500 square feet townhome condo in an up-and-coming town, right in the downtown area. This is a valuable property with home prices having increased 35% since I purchased. This was a wonderful area within walking distance of everything I loved as a single bachelor. When I moved in, all my neighbors were wonderful. We all got along great except for one person. She belonged to the HOA board but was moving on because you can only serve 8 years. We will call her Gimby J. Gimby J is a 65-plus-year-old widow whose husband died unexpectedly from a heart attack. She doesn't have much to do. She met a man online and moved on, and I was happy for her. Talking to my passive neighbors, I hear bits and pieces of why things are at the HOA because of Gimby J and another woman who had to move because of age. On the board, the two of them bully residents. They changed the landscaping from mulch to pine needles. They stopped upkeep on the pool deck because they hate kids. And they reported one house for anything and everything because their kids were too loud. She bullied a woman with MS because Gimby J was feeding feral cats and attracting raccoons and possums near our homes, and animal control was just gold. Let's just say residents did not like her. I got married and my wife has been living with me for 2 years now, and we are very happy. During this time, Gimby J began spending more and more time with her new boyfriend. He lives about an hour away from our house in the country. She would initially spend the weekend, then a week there until she began living there all the time with very little time spent here. Maybe 50 minutes to 2 hours a month would be at our complex. Now at our complex there is only one rule on parking. Each resident is entitled to 2 spots close to their building, but not necessarily in front of your unit, and there is no limit to parking spots you may occupy. Close to it is the key word. We have new folks on the board who are all under 40 years of age, and the place is starting to get spruced up. We have some friends over regularly and they park in front of our unit. Kimby J had 2 hip replacements done. We had not seen her in about 7 months. Our little area of the complex consists of 8 townhomes that face each other. 4 on one side, 4 on the other side. There are 8 spots for 3 homes and a handicapped spot for one of our neighbors. Kimby J started coming back around in January for longer periods, a day on the weekend to go out downtown or to visit friends. And she started complaining that we were in her spots. Again, there are no assigned spots. We were willing to move our friends' vehicles for her to another empty spot. But that is until she started occupying 2 spots at a time with her vehicle. This behavior continued as she would come in taking 2 spots anytime she was here. The rules in the master deed says no vehicle can take more than 1 spot without written permission from the board of directors or property management group and cannot continue for more than 2 days with permission. This was to account for residents moving in and out. Suddenly, that spring, my wife had a medical issue and was hospitalized for 4 days and on disability for 8 weeks. My mom was the only family member on both sides that had the capability of coming down to where we lived to help us out. She drove down and we needed to occupy 3 spots. I promptly let our property management company know and the board of directors knew what was happening, providing them with my mom's make, model, and plate number and that she would be here 6 to 8 weeks, just in case anyone had an issue. Kimby J first time home in 6 weeks, we had a car in front of her house, but she had room for her vehicle. And she marched over and banged. And I mean it was loud on the door demanding we move our car. And she just tried to open my front door and walk in my home. Yes, she tried to enter my home. It shook my dog who peed herself. It was that loud, who in turn growled and chased her out. I promptly told her there was no assigned parking and the rule is 1 car, 1 spot. We would move a car out of respect one last time, and saw she occupied 2 spots with it per usual. The next time it happened 2 weeks later, we refused to move our vehicle. We also began taking pictures of our records and communicating with our HOA of Kimby J's erratic behavior. She continued to arrive, bang on our door, scream at us for having a car parked in her spot. One time banging on the door, she dented the frame with her keys. A few additional times when we were not home, she would come in and park occupying 2 spots. I would take more pictures for my records in case something happened because of her erratic behavior. And finally, it happened. About this time last year, I was at the gym and I got a call from my mom and my wife, frantic that someone is going to tow my wife's car. I drive home as fast as I can and it's Kimby J's boyfriend's son and his girlfriend, whom we have never met. This jerk who doesn't live here and has no business here is screaming at us and insulting my pregnant wife and mother.
My mother-in-law pays X dollars a month for these spots. You jerks are breaking the rules. I'ma tow that there SUV.
All while drinking beer. Now we know he can't do anything except scream and try to intimidate us outside. He calls his mother-in-law, who is not married to his father, about the situation. Kimby J drives an hour to our complex. When she gets here, she parks her car behind all 3 of ours and gets out blocking us in. And I just had enough. I quickly snapped some pictures and I called the police. I will not feel unsafe or be harassed in my neighborhood by people who do not live there or are barely there anymore. Kimby J realizes I called the police and moves her car. I print out all my documentation, pictures, and communication from the HOA. I shower quickly because I'm disgusting from the gym and throw on a nice polo shirt and shorts. Pregnant wife sits in her rocking chair and my mother sits calmly at the kitchen table. The police arrive and we can see them hollering, waving arms wildly and screaming. The police come to the door and we kindly open up. KBJ tries to walk in before I block her and ask her to leave my property and invite the police officers inside. We apologize that we even have to call them over something so petty. But our neighbor is acting crazy and her behavior has been escalating. We explain what is happening, show them communication from the HOA, show them pictures, and the officer quickly had enough of these white trash pieces of craps. He imposes a no trespass order on my Porsche and will not let her near my property. If she steps foot on our walkway, she is in violation of the order and she will be arrested. We watch him go back out and explain calmly to her and she starts screaming along with her boyfriend's kid and his girlfriend. This goes on for a while and the officer calls for backup and a second car arrives promptly. KBJ promptly declares it her property too. That she pays her fees and that he can't do that because everything is community property outside of a home. She goes and marches up to my stoop and he arrests her. He charges her with disorderly conduct and harassment. The police then tell KBJ's boyfriend's son to go home. He gets in his truck with his girlfriend and they drive off. As soon as he hits the road outside of our complex, the second police officer pulls him over for DUI. That's right, that drunk guy screaming at my wife and mother had been drinking the entire time and was loaded. Police couldn't do anything in the complex, but could when he hit the main road. Both of them were hauled off the jail, and we stopped hearing from them about parking. 2 days later, KBJ and her boyfriend show up to the complex, and they park her boyfriend's car in our lot and leave it, parked in one spot to ensure it's hers. Well, they drive off and we don't hear from them in a week, and no one is home. Since KBJ's boyfriend does not live here and his car is abandoned, I called the HOA to report it, and they came and towed his SUV. And KBJ put her house on the market 8 weeks later. Next story. Sister's bully gets excluded from school. So a few weeks ago my sister seemed really upset. She's only 13 and is normally very cheerful. We have a very good bond together and rarely fall out over anything, so me being the big brother asks her what's the matter while she's texting on her phone. She tries to pass it on as nothing at the start but soon starts to crack, telling me about some girl in her year who has been bullying her non-stop. She showed me the messages on her phone of this girl in a group chat on Snapchat, just taking the complete piss out of my sister in front of all of her friends. Luckily, none of the other friends seemed like they were joining in from what I could read, and it looked like it was just this one girl who I will call G1. My sister then shows me G1's Instagram and she is also sending pictures to my sister of people with weight problems trying to indicate that my sister is fat. I was so upset that I asked my sister for G1's Snapchat username so I could try and understand why she's being so mean to my sister. She gives me the whole "if off, you're not involved and you should ask her" type stuff. Without getting lines crossed since I'm 16 and will be weird for me to start shouting at a 13-year-old girl over text, I just tell her to stop messaging her. This works for a few weeks and my sister does not hear from G1. But G1 couldn't handle being nice and went back to bullying her over text again. This time my sister told me straight up, and I am happy she did. First I asked my sister to unlock her phone and I screenshotted every message that G1 had sent to my sister, including the things she had sent to me, and sent it all onto my phone. The next day I go to school as normal and request a meeting with my head of school, the principal, and I show him all the messages that G1 had sent to my sister and me. He was shocked and you could see that he was visibly mad with G1. He thanks me for telling him and asks me to leave the room. Later that day as I'm walking out the lunch hall, I saw G1 sitting in reception with 2 police officers and she was sobbing. She saw me as I walked past and gave her a smile. My sister told me that the principal brought her into his house with two police officers and said how unacceptable G1's behavior was. Our school takes this very seriously, and that she was also getting a 7-day exclusion. I was so happy as well as my sister was. All of her friends were as well, since G1 has also been picking on them apparently. G1 and my sister have now made up and G1 does not dare pick on anyone else. But it's always great to see G1 noticing me in the hallway and looking down like she didn't notice me. Note: the reason the police got involved is because a few years back a student went through a form of cyberbullying at the school and made some threats on their life. I'm glad that they did because otherwise, G1 may have carried on being so nasty. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.